10 times Alvin Leung loses it on MasterChef. Alvin Leung might be the Asian version of Gordon Ramsay. His rude and stern comments give him the Ramsay's vibe. Besides that, he's a chef you simply can't ignore. With his sharp tongue and no-nonsense attitude, Alvin has made a name for himself as a demon chef from Hong Kong. And in today's video, we are going to focus on 10 times Alvin Leung loses it on MasterChef. Number 1. Alvin Leung enraged by stir-fry spin-off. It was the first mystery box challenge of season 2. Contestants had to whip up something amazing. Because no one wants to go home this early and miss out on all the kitchen drama, judges were only going to taste the top 3 dishes. So if your food isn't one of the best, you just spent an hour cooking for literally no reason. And let's be real, no one's coming here to be a background character. The contestants lift their wooden boxes like they're unwrapping Christmas presents, only to find cream cheese, maple syrup, pineapple, berries, bacon, phyllo pastry, kale, and a pork chop. When they were done cooking, John's dish came out as the best. For the elimination challenge, the producers threw in a little plot twist. John, the winner, won't be cooking, so he will be chilling this week with immunity, sipping coffee while everyone else sweats it out. But he gets to choose what the other contestants will be cooking, which is a level of power we all secretly crave. He's offered 3 Asian-themed dishes, and he settles for the stir-fry with rice. John also got to play king and pick someone to grant immunity. And guess who he chooses? David, the concrete contractor from Surrey. Meanwhile, Quasi's over here whipping up a veggie stir-fry, and John's face is like, are you serious right now? The stir-fry looks solid, but those rice balls with a surprise inside? Yeah, those could go either way. When it was time for the home cooks to present their dishes, Kyle's dish had Leong doing a double take. Poor guy looks genuinely confused.
I stir fries all over the world. I tell you, I've never seen like this.
Do you know what you're doing? Kyle, still holding on to hope, says,
I would like to think so, Chef.
You would like to think so. Think again.
And then Bonaccini's over there just shaking his head like, nope, we can't say this one. Our next chef successfully surprised the judges, but not in the way he had imagined it to be. Number 2, Quasi. Alvin is surprised, but not in a good way. Quasi Douglas walked in with so much confidence in his dish to meet the judges, presenting a vegetarian stir-fry with sesame-coated sticky rice balls. Looking at Quasi's dish, Alvin asked the home cook how he felt about his creation. Quasi replied saying he was pleased. After all, everything on the plate was his idea. What was Alvin expecting him to say otherwise? One could easily tell that Alvin was not impressed, but he went on to taste the food. This only caused him to ask more questions. The demon chef wanted to know what flavors Quasi had put in there. The home cook wasted no time in listing all of them. But guess what? Alvin claimed he could not taste any of the flavors in the dish. That was enough emotional damage on its own, but Alvin did not stop there. When he ate the rice balls, he was even more displeased. Quasi quickly added that there was a bit of lime in the rice balls and they were supposed to make it unique. Alvin had one last remark for Quasi.
I'm surprised, but not in a good way.
You can rest assured that Quasi never saw that coming. At least it wasn't his overconfidence that led to Alvin's outburst, unlike this other contestant. Number 3, Cody creates a disaster. For his age, Cody knew a lot about food, probably more than most of us know about our own phone chargers. Competitors saw him as a serious threat at first, thanks to his big ambitions and solid cooking skills. But Cody had one tiny flaw. His confidence often turned into arrogance, and his dishes started flopping. In this episode, Cody thought it was a great idea to give up his advantage after winning the Mystery Box Challenge. By the end of the episode, he was dangerously close to packing his knives and going home, all thanks to his own overconfidence. Cody decided to go all out and served up a New York strip loin with truffle sabayon, creamed corn, and beef tartare. Sounds fancy, right? Well, Bonaccini took one look and compared it to a train wreck, and not the kind you can't look away from. More like the kind you'd rather forget ever happened. Alvin? Oh, he had plenty to say.
There's too much going in there. It doesn't work. I can't taste any of the distinctive truffle which we want you to do.
Told Cody that none of the flavors they were supposed to focus on made it into the dish. For him, this plate was like when you have a bad day and everything goes wrong. The presentation, a mess. It looked like something you'd scroll past on Instagram without even a second glance. Not exactly the kind of meal you'd want to dive into. Cody definitely got what he deserved. But this other duo tried their best to impress the judges and still ended up failing. Number 4, Marita and Julie. The contestants were paired up like awkward blind dates, and their mission was simple. make a perfect dish together. Easy, right? Well, not when the judges kept randomly shouting, "Switch," like some twisted game of musical chairs. The success of the dish totally depended on how well these two home cooks could work together. When Alvin finally took a bite of their masterpiece, the only feedback he could muster was,
It's burnt. It's very greasy. That's unfortunate.
Yep, after all that switching and teamwork, the dish ended up looking and probably tasting like it was rescued from a campfire gone wrong. Merida and Julie accepted the judge's observation with humility, unlike Dale, who felt like he knew better. Number 5, Dale. Alvin tells him not to argue. Dale came in hot, presenting his tomahawk steak with parsnip-stuffed leeks and tricolor fries as he had just discovered fire. Bursting with enthusiasm, probably thinking he just reinvented steak night. But the judges weren't exactly doing backflips. Bonaccini took one look at the steak and flatly said, "It's raw."
This is raw.
But Dale was not having it. Nope, he dug his heels in and argued that it was perfectly cooked. Because clearly, who knows steak better than Dale who just cooked it, right? Alvin, though, wasn't impressed with Dale's sudden bravery. He shut it down fast, warning Dale not to argue with the judges.
First of all, don't argue.
Yes, chef.
You could see Dale's soul leave his body at that moment. Emotionally and mentally, the guy was toast. He definitely wasn't ready for Alvin's straight-up reaction. Maybe next time, Dale will argue less and cook more. Number 6, Eric and Kayla. Now, this duo was quite the match. Think peanut butter and jelly, except with a lot more stress. Alvin reminded Eric that Kayla had basically played therapist, helping him calm down while they cooked. But let's be real, that was just the warm-up round. When Alvin finally took a bite of their dish, he didn't hold back. He looked at them and said, "The shrimp is overcooked and bland."
Severely underseasoned. The shrimp is overcooked and quite bland.
It was like getting hyped for a concert and then realizing the band isn't playing your favorite song. The duo might have been a great team, but their shrimp, not so much. No matter how you might want to be creative, you still have to make sure your dish is good enough to impress the judges. Danny didn't take this into consideration before he pureed his smelts. Number 7, Smelts Disaster. The home cooks were in the heat of their first elimination test. And what was the challenge? To cook an exquisite meal with smelt fish in 60 minutes. Now, if you don't know, smelts are very tiny and lack much flavor. One of the contestants, Danny, thought it would be nice to do something a little bit out of the box. So he pureed his fish and made smelt croquettes with chili lime sauce. The first judge outrightly called it bad.
It's pretty bad.
Now, you know it's about to be a lot worse with Chef Alvin. Just one bite and he blurted out, "Is this a joke? This is MasterChef and you give me this?"
Is this a joke?
I mean, this is MasterChef Canada. And you give me this?
Oh boy, that didn't look any good. Danny didn't have the boldness to even argue with the judges. But we cannot say the same thing about Eric. Number 8, making Chef Alvin angry. By now, everyone should have known that one thing you don't ever want to do is get Chef Alvin angry at all. But unfortunately, Eric didn't get the memo early. Being an engineer turned chef, Eric joined MasterChef Canada to try out his cooking skills. So in this particular episode, he made pan-seared duck breasts with spring rolls and red Thai curry sauce. After the judges tasted his meal, they gave him the nod, which meant he did pretty well. Then came along Chef Alvin, who told him his duck meat looked burnt.
Fat, you say it's crispy.
Yeah.
I say it's burnt.
And this was where it went down. Eric immediately countered and replied that it didn't look or taste burnt.
It doesn't taste burnt, I promise you that.
And Alvin doesn't like it when he's told that he's wrong. He coldly said, "When a chef tells you it's burnt, it's burnt."
The chef tells you it's burnt, it's burnt.
I understand, Chef.
Don't argue. Because if you argue, we don't want to teach you. Be humble. Learn. You're smart, correct?
Yes. Yes,
I'm
Chef.
smart. But if I'm gonna give you a yes, I need to see more. Can you give me more?
100%, Chef.
Do you know who I am?
Number 9, bland ham and cheese. Who doesn't love it when Chef Alvin tastes your dish and goes, "Wow"? In fact, it's literally the best thing to hear. But sometimes just because he says wow doesn't mean you did a good job. When David plated his dish of tortellini with ham and cheese, he looked pretty confident and sure that he was going to get a big high five from all the judges. Well, you know what they say about having wild dreams, right? They don't always come true. So Chef Alvin had one spoonful of David's tortellini and his reaction was wow.
Wow.
But wait, don't applaud yet because what followed next was a whole banter about how poorly the food tasted.
That definitely tastes like a ham and cheese sandwich. This is MasterChef Canada. It's ham and cheese. There's no spice, no herbs. It lacks excitement.
Imagine getting all excited about Chef Alvin liking your dish only to realize that it's just him being sarcastic and the meal wasn't as good as you'd expected. Meanwhile, David is not the only one on this table. Alvin also did a similar thing to Becky. Number 10, overcooked steak. Becky had won the high-end budget of $10 to prepare a dish and she chose to go with a flank steak with caramelized onions, sweet onion puree, and fried shallots. Sounds appealing, right? Well, let's see what Chef Alvin thought. At first sight, the steak looked pretty well cooked and with a sumptuous finish. But Chef Alvin took his first bite and didn't quite like what he had tasted. He told her the only thing he liked about her was her innovative spirit, and she smiled, but he immediately cut her off.
This steak is overcooked.
Like, you don't get to receive a compliment and smile because you did a bad job. And he called her steak overcooked. She went back to her stand with tears in her eyes.